option. So there's no argument to be made that we've gone forward on the healthcare issue. We have gone backwards because now you got progressives, DSA, sheep herding people to the Democratic Party that would never give you Medicare for all.
Well, I think we have gone forward in terms of a mainstream conversation. Listen, I'm not here as Bernie Sanders' PR agent, and you have your views and I have mine.
Yes, you are. You are here as a Bernie Sanders. And if I would have had a chance to respond, I would have, because my question wasn't even about Bernie. Go back to my question that I asked about 3.5 minutes ago. Where I said, why should we donate to your campaign after the failure of Bernie Sanders? So then after that, instead of answering the question, you then you start going this long spiel talking about what Bernie did great. Why we shouldn't be talking bad about Bernie. I didn't ask you to do PR for Bernie. You did it voluntarily because Bernie is a cult. Bernie is a cult the same way that Trump is a cult. It literally does not matter what Bernie does. I literally gave her a cognizant, articulate breakdown on why I consider Bernie Sanders to be a sellout, and then she doesn't even debunk it. She doesn't even try to debunk. Oh, we got different opinions on this because it's a cult. The same way if you were to factually debunk a religion, we got our own opinions. Bernie and his movement is a cult.
And I think that's really what this is all about. None of us have a monopoly on truth. I think all of us have pieces of it. Truth is a cult.
True. See, you might as well just say alternative facts. No one has a monopoly on truth. No, there is facts, there's reality, and then there's your feelings, Marianne. Your feelings, the feelings of the Vanguard, the feelings of TYT, the feelings of these people is they want Bernie to be good.
Can know what it is we need to do. We need to know what it is we need to understand. This country is drowning in information and starving for understanding. What we need to understand is the American story. And so just as when sometimes you're trying to understand your own life better by looking at your parents, at your grandparents, at your ancestors, it's time for us to look at the entire sweep of the American story, to understand better our past, that we might better understand where we are now. We need to know, what do we owe our ancestors and what do we know our descendants? And we can't know any of that until we see where we stand in the midst of the larger scope of the American story. Now, the American story began as an established nation in 1776. And in 1776, some very brave men, yes, they were very brave, because if the British had won the war, all of them would have been hanged as traitors against the King of England. 56 men who came together and signed a document that infused the founding of a nation in a way that had never occurred before, with the idea, repudiating the idea of the divine right of kings, repudiating the idea of an aristocracy, repudiating the idea that a few would be able to suck up the resources of the country and make everyone else nothing more than an economic serf. They repudiated that. And they declared that all men are created equal, that all men are given by God inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. They declared that it's the job of government to secure those rights, and that if government isn't doing its job, then the people have the right to alter it or to abuse it. Now, that was extraordinary, of course, but it's also where the story got very gnarly. For out of the 56 men who signed that document, 41 of them were slave owners. So that dichotomy between the extraordinarily enlightened principles politically and enlightened principles morally, on which we purport to stand, is often at odds with forces within our country who usually, for their own economic purposes, have no intention whatsoever of seeing those principles actualized, and have proven in every generation, even unto ours, that they will go to the most violent lengths to make sure they don't. That, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, is the American story. That dichotomy, that split mind, which is American consciousness, is baked into the cake. And it has been with us from the beginning, and every generation of Americans reiterates the story. What we are going through right now is baked into the cake here. It is no different than what other generations have faced, but I'm here to say to you, other generations stood up and pushed back, and now it's our turn. That's what we need to do. Yes, we need to identify the problems in our past, but we need to identify with the problem solvers in our past. We responded to slavery with abolition. We responded to the institutionalized suppression of women with the women's suffrage movement. We responded to the Gilded Age with the establishment of the labor movement and the New Deal. We responded to segregation with the civil rights movement, and it is our turn now. But once again, we have to understand what's happening here. Because for the abolitionists, the problem was the institution of slavery. For the women's suffragists, it was the fact that we didn't have women's suffrage. You needed to pass a constitutional amendment. We needed to establish the labor movement. We knew that the problem was segregation. And so you needed the civil rights movement. You needed civil rights legislation. You needed voting rights legislation. The reason we have such a problem today is because it is not one specific institution that plagues us and that opposes real democracy and that opposes the equality of people and of economic justice, that opposes the very principles on which we stand. It's not one institution this time. It's like an atomizer spray of economic injustice. It is over here. It's Flint, Michigan. It's Flint, Michigan over here. And it's waters drying up and aquifers and rivers drying up in the American South over here. It's mass incarceration over there. It's 68,000 people who die every year from lack of health care over here. It's no one particular thing. And so it's easy to gaslight us, and we're playing whack-a-mole. If we could just get that fixed, if we could just get that fixed. No, the opponent is not a specific situation or circumstance. The opponent is an economic mindset. The opponent is an economic mindset that has had its grip on this country for the last 50 years. Over the last 48 years, there has been $50 trillion of wealth that has been transferred from the bottom 90% to the top 1% of people in this country. This country is now in the grip of an economic mindset, whatever you call it. Some people call it neoliberalism. Some people call it free market capitalism. Some people call it crony capitalism. Some people call it hyper-capitalism. Let me tell you something. It's neither real capitalism nor is it a free market. It is a sociopathic economic system. It is a sociopathic economic system. That in policy after policy after policy, make sure that those who already have will probably get more, and those who do not have will have a hard time even surviving. I remind you that in the 1970s, the average American worker had decent benefits and could afford a home and could afford a yearly vacation and could afford a car and could afford to send their kids to college. Before the 1960s, tuition was free at state colleges and universities. That was then, and this is now. This did not just fall out of the sky. This is by design. And that design is now baked into the cake in this town where there are 3 times more corporate lobbyists than there are legislators in Washington, D.C. This philosophy, this economic mindset now has its grip on this country. It has its tentacles in every aspect of our lives. It has its grip on this government. This government is now more than not a system of legalized bribery. And this system will not change itself. The status quo, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else will not disrupt itself. That's our job. We should remember that Abraham Lincoln, standing on the battlefield at Gettysburg, speaking of the men who had died there fighting for the Union, said that they had given their last full measure of devotion so that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people would not perish from the earth. It's time for us to look in the mirror as Americans and face the very painful fact government of the people, by the people, and for the people is perishing now. This government is now a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. Why does 1 in 4 Americans carry medical debt? Why is it that 18 million Americans cannot fulfill the prescriptions that are given them by their doctors? Why is it that 68,000 Americans die in this country every year for lack of health care? Why? Because we don't have universal health care, because just like every other advanced democracy, these positions, such as universal health care, such as tuition-free college, higher education, and tech school, such as free childcare, such as paid family leave and sick pay, such as a guaranteed living wage, and such as a 21st century economic bill of rights. Those are moderate positions in every other country. Every other country has them. They are mainstream. Ladies and gentlemen, hear me when I tell you this. The American people have been trained to expect so little. The American people have been played. But this is a new time in America. And many people who realize, even if they themselves are not living at the effect of all of this entrenched injustice, know that the fact that that entrenched injustice exists is an unsustainable position. I'm so glad that President Trump did not win the last election. That means we didn't go over the cliff, but I'll tell you something, we're still 6 inches away from it. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our democracy. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our environment. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our economy. This is not something where you can just tweak it here and have an incremental approach there and try to change things here and a little bit there. Oh, that'll work fine for the 20% of Americans for whom the economy is basically okay. But those 20%, those of us who live on that island of 20% of Americans for whom things are basically good, are surrounded by a vast sea of economic anxiety and despair. We don't need any more evidence that this system is intrinsically corrupt. We can see it in the broken windows. We can see it in the shattered factories. We can see it in the addiction-addled brokenness of our fellow citizens. We can see it in the despair. We can see it in the addiction. We can see it in the anxiety. We can see it in the depression. And people in this town, if they will not care enough to solve the problems that produces all that despair, half the people in this city don't even notice it. They are so buffered from the ravages of human suffering, they don't even mention the word poor. They don't even mention the word poverty, much less address its deeper causes. So some people in this city just don't even seem to care. Some people in this city, with some very brave exceptions, apparently don't have the spine or the moral courage to fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me in there. I will. this is the thing. The American people are up for the job. The American people are ready for the task. The American people, look at all the people protesting environmental injustice. Look at all the people who are trying to take stands against the injustices of things like Cop City, things like the deaths of environmental activists. People who are reforming and revitalizing the labor movement in this country. People who are showing new ways to do agriculture, standing up for indigenous rights, standing up for women's rights, standing up for gender liberty, standing up for all of the things that America should be standing for, because it represents equality of economic opportunity, social opportunity, political opportunity. Yet the political system as it now exists is institutionally resistant to profound solutions when they do not serve the short-term economic profit maximization of large-form corporate systems, which are the donors and are the people who rule this town. And so it's not like we don't have the solutions. There are people in this town who have the solutions. There are people all over this country who have the solutions. But the people who are in power either don't have the solutions or do not deeply support the solutions. And people who have the solutions do not have the power. Once again, let the people get in there. We'll handle it from here. And so I asked you to come here today and to join with me, both those of you who are here live and those of you who are on live stream. I have run for president before. I am not naive. I'm not naive about the forces which have no intention of allowing anyone into this conversation who does not align with their predetermined agenda. I understand that in their mind, only those people whose careers have been entrenched in the car that drove us into this ditch should possibly be considered qualified to lead us out of this ditch. But I reject that notion. And those pseudo-sophisticates who give us their PR about how they're the adults, you see, and people like myself and people like most of you should really sit down now. They would have us think this whole thing is just too complicated. No, ladies and gentlemen, the problem is not that it's complicated. The problem is that it is corrupt. And to those who feel that they are the adults in the room, they are the sophisticates in.
That was hard for me. So I knew I couldn't sit through this whole garbage. So I stayed off screen and let this shit play. But we're going to rewind this. I don't understand who told her this speech was okay, because I know she rehearsed it and I know people have heard this over and over. But we're going to rewind and go back to the beginning of this nonsense. And it's so much to tackle here. But let me give the proper welcome. Welcome to Straight Out of Politics. I'm your host for today. I am Jay, or CJ, or Compton J on social media. And today's episode, or today's stream, is the tale of two strategies. We have Marianne Williamson and Kshama Sawant representing the two strategies that we're talking about today. One is electoralism, but not electoralism, I would say the radical way, but electoralism the progressive Democrat way. So one strategy is going through the broken down, corrupt apparatus of the Democratic Party and somehow cultivating a labor movement while at the same time supporting the Democratic Party, which we already know will result in things like breaking a strike. Then we have Kshama Sawant, who has been elected, has delivered, not as a Democrat, for 10 years as a city council person in Seattle. That person is saying, I'm walking away from this electoralism to get in these streets and do some real work organizing workers. I mean, I don't think I have to tell you which one, I'm picking, and RBN doesn't even have to tell you that, because the other part of this episode is RBN and Nick's speech. He is headlining actually with Chris Hedges and Kshama Sawant at the worker strike back launch today. So we're covering both of those today. All right, so everybody knows the routine. Let's hit that like button. Let's get to 150. Everybody hit that like button, get us to 150. Thank you for all the new members that joined. I think I saw 2. Saw somebody put up 2. And let's go all the way up. Wow, you guys are roasting. You guys are roasting Marianne Williamson. Thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Davis, for joining, become members of the community on YouTube. And one other thing before I get back into this stuff. This is just, whew. I don't know how all of you sat through it without stopping it and yelling at the screen, or maybe you were yelling or at least typing. Let's play this.
About this country, but we're all here, or at least many of us are, because we are upset about this country. We're worried about this country. We're concerned about this country. And we know that this country is plagued by many challenges now, not the least of which is hatred and division, which is greater than any of us have experienced in our national life. And it is our job to create a vision of justice and love that is so powerful that it will override the forces of hatred and injustice and fear that
now plague. Oh, God. That's holy nonsense. So love is going to battle. These are corrupt psychopaths that are fine with murdering children. But let's bring some love in that shit. Right? That's what we're doing.
It's one thing, though, to say that we're here because we want to do that. It's another thing to know, how do we do that? And as one young man who might be in the audience today, with such youthful sincerity, once said to me, he said, Marianne, what are we going to do? But what I've learned in my life is that the first question isn't always, what do I do? The first question is often, what do I need to understand? And before the United States or any of us can know what it is we need to do, we need to know what it is we need to understand. This country is drowning in information and starving for understanding.
Drowning in information and starving for understanding.
What we need to understand is the American story. And so just as when sometimes you're trying to understand your own life.
Let's see what American story she tells. Because from my point of view, and the point of view of scholars like Dr. Gerald Horn, who was on the show, and he wrote a book about the counter-revolution, which in our history books is told in the story of how our forefathers were revolting against the crown. But Dr. Gerald Horne, his book explores or speaks about how the people, the forefathers that came here, they were escaping the ending of slavery. They wanted to capitalize on that shit. And the story we are told is a bunch of garbage. Look up the book. Can't remember the full name. Maybe I'll look it up. The Counter Revolution of 1976 or something like that. It's called. I can't get the full name. So let's see if she tells that story. Let's see.
Better by looking at your parents, at your grandparents, at your ancestors. It's time for us to look at the entire sweep of the American story, to understand better our past, that we might better understand where we are now. We need to know, what do we owe our ancestors and what do we know our descendants? And we can't know any of that until we see where we stand in the midst of the larger scope of the American story. Now, the American story began as an established nation in 1776. And in 1776, some very brave men, yes, they were very brave, because if the British had won the war, all of them would have been hanged as traitors against the King of England.
And so the clowns that she calls our forefathers or great men, they were actually some of the worst people ever.
"56 men who came together and signed a document that infused the founding of a nation in a way that had never occurred before, with the idea, repudiating the idea of the divine right of kings, repudiating the idea of an aristocracy, repudiating the idea that a few would be able to suck up the resources of the country."
Is she even being serious here? Is this even serious? Because the description sounds just like our forefathers. So let's go back a little bit.
As traitors against the King of England. 56 men who came together and signed a document that infused the founding of a nation in a way that had never occurred before, with the idea, repudiating the idea of the divine right of kings.
Just the divine right of white people and landowners. That's all.
Repudiating the idea of an aristocracy.
Is that even serious? The aristocracy has been here from beginning to end.
Repudiating the idea that a few would be able to suck up the resources of the country.
The idea of a few sucking up the resources. Is this even serious? Is this serious? It feels like the speechwriter who wrote this is a liberal who believes in stories of John Wayne and the Lone Ranger and don't understand this sort of fairy tale telling of the history of the United States is actually an absolute turnoff to young people who already know this is a crock of bullshit.
And make everyone else nothing more than an economic serf. They repudiated that.
Make everybody nothing more but an economic. How is that not what's happening now, Marianne? How is that not what's happening now? So why I keep being so picky at this part right here is I don't understand why we need to reflect on the founding colonizers, the founding enslavers. What is this going to do? Who are you trying to get with this?
And they declare that all men are created equal.
They declare all men are created equal as they had slaves, man. So what I'm saying is, it's a fairy tale. Even in your retelling, this is a fairy tale.
All men are given by God inalienable rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. They declare that it's the job of government to secure those rights, and that if government isn't doing its job, then the people have the right to alter it or to abolish it. Now, that was extraordinary, of course, but it's also where the story got very gnarly. For out of the 56 men who signed that document, 41 of them were slave owners. So that dichotomy between the extraordinarily enlightened principles politically and enlightened principles morally, on which we purport to stand, is often at odds with forces within our country who usually, for their own economic.
Here's the problem that I always say, I brought up in many streams. In a white supremacy society, when we're choosing our white supremacy society heroes, there is no what that person did who is being considered a hero to brown, black, indigenous people has no factor in whether you're judging him as a hero. Because this is no dilemma. This is no dichotomy. You had some people some privileged people, literally, landowner people, who put together a document for white landowners to benefit, and who own slaves and put a rubber stamp on that shit to exist. Somehow, enslaving people, brutal enslavement, isn't a disqualifier for you being a hero, sir. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. You're talking about these people responsible for the genocide, just slaughtering of the indigenous people, part of my ancestry. So get the fuck out of here with this shit. And you're referencing these fucking horrific people.
Purposes have no intention whatsoever of seeing those principles actualized, and have proven in every generation, even unto ours, that they will go to the most violent lengths to make sure they don't.
This is a white supremacy culture. Go, yeah. He killed a couple 100,000 black and brown people, but look what he did over here. He wrote some shit on the paper. Balances out. Preposterous.
That, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, is the American story. That dichotomy, that split mind, which is American consciousness, is baked into the cake. And it has been with us from the beginning, and every generation of Americans reiterates the story. What we are going through right now is baked into the cake here. It is no different than what other generations have faced. But I'm here to say to you, other generations stood up and pushed back, and now it's our turn. That's what we need to do. Yes, we need to identify the problems in our past, but we need to identify with the problem solvers in our past. We responded to slavery with abolition. We responded to the...
This is literally clown shit. We responded to slavery with the 13th Amendment. Not abolition. There was slave codes. There was Reconstruction. Like, this is literally clown shit right here.
Institutionalized suppression of women with the women's suffrage movement.
So, that fixed everything. And slavery wasn't even abolished with the 13th Amendment. It was just pushed to the prisons. This, I guess, y'all.
We responded to the Gilded Age with the establishment of the labor movement and the New Deal. We responded to segregation with the civil rights movement, and it is our turn now.
A couple of times her voice changes like that for some reason. I think she's trying to be like she's, I don't know, she's dropping a mic or something, but it comes off scary to me sometimes, like when I first saw her do that.
But once again, we have to understand what's happening here. Because for the abolitionists, the problem was the institution of slavery. For the women's suffragists, it was the fact that we didn't have women's suffrage. You needed to pass a constitutional amendment. We needed to establish the labor movement. We knew that the problem was segregation. And so you needed the civil rights movement. You needed civil rights legislation. You needed voting rights legislation. The reason we have such a problem today is because they didn't.
Marianne Williamson, your history story keep having all these holes, and the hole that you have in your history story here with civil rights is the decades of struggle and direct action before any legislation. You see? That's what you're skipping over.
There's not one specific institution that plagues us and that opposes
There's not one specific institution that plagues us?
real democracy, and that opposes the equality of people and of economic justice, that opposes the very principles on which we stand. It's not one institution this time. It's like an atomizer spray of economic injustice. It is over here.
What kind of spray? Listen, man. This is.
It's Flint, Michigan. It's Flint, Michigan over here. And its water's drying up and aquifers and rivers drying up in the American South over here. It's mass incarceration over there. It's 68,000 people who die every year from lack of health care over here. It's no one particular thing. And so it's easy to gaslight us, and we're playing whack-a-mole. If we could just get that fixed, if we could just get that fixed. No, the opponent is not a specific situation or circumstance. The opponent is an economic mindset.
Are you talking about capitalism, Marianne? The economic mindset that you're talking about? But watch how you tell us how it's not capitalism, though. Not the real capitalism.
The opponent is an economic mindset that has had its grip on this country for the last 50 years. Over the last 48 years, there has been $50 trillion of wealth that has been transferred from the bottom 90% to the top 1% of people in this country. This country is now in the grip of an economic mindset, whatever you call it. Some people call it neoliberalism. Some people call it free market capitalism. Some people call it crony capitalism. Some people call it hyper-capitalism. Let me tell you something. It's neither real capitalism nor is it a free market. It is a
It's not real capitalism. Did real capitalism enslave Africans? Was it real capitalism at that point? Because you are alluding to in the speech here, Marianne, that somehow real capitalism has gone awry in the last several decades to now it's become this. So my question would be to you, was real capitalism happening when Africans were enslaved? Because that's the genesis of the country. Was real capitalism happening when Emmett Till was murdered? Was real capitalism happening when Martin Luther King was murdered, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X? It's terrible.
Sociopathic economic system. It is a sociopathic economic system. That in policy after policy after policy makes sure that those who already have will probably get more, and those who do not have will have a hard time even surviving. I remind you that in the 1970s, the average American worker had decent benefits and could afford a home and could afford a yearly vacation and could afford a car and could afford to send their kids to college. Before the 1960s, tuition was free at state colleges and universities. That was then, and this is now. This did not just fall out of the sky. This is by design. And that design is now baked into the cake in this town where there are 3 times more corporate lobbyists than there are legislators in Washington, D.C. This philosophy, this economic mindset now has its grip on this country. It has its tentacles in every aspect of our lives. It has its grip on this government. This government is now more than not a system of legalized bribery. And this system will not change itself. The status quo, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else will not disrupt itself. That's our job.
That was another one of those moments where her voice dips for some reason.
We should remember that Abraham Lincoln, standing on the battlefield at Gettysburg, speaking of the men who had died there fighting for the Union, said that they had given their last full measure of devotion so that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people would not perish from the earth. It's time for us to look in the mirror as Americans and face the very painful fact government of the people, by the people, and for the people is perishing now. This government is now a government.
Perishing, as in the process. Government for the people, by the people. It's almost like she's lived a privileged life since she was born. So her experience of the United States, it's completely void of what happened to a lot of people. Yeah. Let's play a little more. I think she's getting to the end.
Of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. Why does 1 in 4 Americans carry medical debt? Why is it that 18 million Americans cannot fulfill the prescriptions that are given them by their doctors? Why is it that 68,000 Americans die in this country every year for lack of health care? Why? Because we don't have universal health care, because just like every other advanced democracy. These positions, such as universal health care, such as tuition-free college, higher education, and tech school, such as free childcare, such as paid family leave and sick pay, such as a guaranteed living wage, and such as a 21st century economic bill of rights. Those are moderate positions in every other country. Every other country has them. They are mainstream. Ladies and gentlemen, hear me when I tell you this. The American people have been trained to expect so little. The American people have been played. But this is a new time in America. And many people who realize, even if they themselves are not living at the effect of all of this entrenched injustice, know that the fact that that entrenched injustice exists is an unsustainable position. I'm so glad that President Trump did not win the last election. That means we didn't go over the cliff, but I'll tell you something, we're still 6 inches away from it. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our democracy. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our environment. We are 6 inches away from the cliff in terms of the state of our economy. This is not something where you can just tweak it here and have an incremental approach there and try to change things here and a little bit there. Oh, that'll work fine for the 20% of America.
This is where she has co-opted so much of the non-establishment language in her speech. And here is a pivotal point where she's co-opting, oh, we can't just do anything around the edges, then what are we going to do? What is she proposing? But anything but around the edges. What institutions is she talking about getting rid of? So what she's doing is using language that describes tearing down the system. She's using that language to describe reforming the system. That somehow it's so much of a reform that we can call it revolutionary. And it's terrible. This is a hijacking of non-establishment language. These people see the tweets, they see the social media, they see the streams, they see what people think on the left. And then they craft their speeches like this.
Americans for whom the economy is basically okay. But those 20%, those of us who live on that island of 20% of Americans for whom things are basically good, are surrounded by a vast sea of economic anxiety and despair. We don't need any more evidence that this system is intrinsically corrupt. We can see it in the broken windows. We can see it in the shattered factories. We can see it in the addiction-addled brokenness of our fellow citizens. We can see it in the despair. We can see it in the addiction. We can see it in the anxiety. We can see it in the depression. And people in this town, if they will not care enough to solve the problems that produces all that despair, half the people in this city don't even notice it. They are so buffered from the ravages of human suffering, they don't even mention the word poor. They don't even mention the word poverty, much less address its deeper causes. So some people in this city just don't even seem to care. Some people in this city, with some very brave exceptions, apparently don't have the spine or the moral courage to fix it. Ladies.
With some brave exceptions. Who do you think she thinks the exception is? The God, Bernie Sanders? I don't see a single exception in Washington, D.C. to this.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me in there. I will.
Oh my God, that voice. That was a bad one. Let me rewind that one back. See this.
City just don't even seem to care. Some people in this city, with some very brave exceptions, apparently don't have the spine or the moral courage to fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me in there. I will.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
This is the thing. The American people are up for the job. The American people are ready for the task. The American people, look at all the people protesting environmental injustice. Look at all the people who are trying to take stands against the injustices of things like Cop City, things like the deaths of environmental activists. People who are reforming and revitalizing the labor movement in this country. People who are showing new ways to do agriculture, standing up for indigenous rights, standing up for women's rights, standing up for gender liberty, standing up for all of the things that America should be standing for, because it represents equality of economic opportunity, social opportunity, political opportunity. Yet the political system as it now exists is institutionally resistant to profound solutions when they do not serve the short-term economic profit maximization of large-form corporate systems, which are the donors and are the people who rule this town. And so it's not like we don't have the solutions. There are people in this town who have the solutions. There are people all over this country who have the solutions. But the people who are in power either don't have the solutions or do not deeply support the solutions. And people who have the solutions do not have the power. Once again, let the people get in there. We'll handle it from here.
So I guess maybe the voice change is supposed to be like where she's really getting, I don't even know the word to even describe, but she's getting gritty, or she's getting like, yeah, like really into it, I guess. Let's listen.
And so I asked you to come here today and to join with me, both those of you who are here live and those of you who are on live stream. I have run for president before. I am not naive. I'm not naive about the forces which have no intention of allowing anyone into this conversation who does not align with their predetermined agenda. I understand that in their mind, only those people whose careers have been entrenched in the car that drove us into this ditch should possibly be considered qualified to lead us out of this ditch.
You mean like Joe Biden? The guy you refuse to critique? Remember the mass incarceration issue you mentioned earlier? That's solely in his lab. Haven't heard you say anything about that. Maybe she has.
But I reject that notion. And those pseudo-sophisticates who give us their PR about how they're the adults, you see, and people like myself and people like most of you should really sit down now. They would have us think this whole thing is just too complicated. No, ladies and gentlemen, the problem is not that it's complicated. The problem is that it is corrupt. And to those who feel that they are the adults in the room, they are the sophisticates in the room, and the rest of us should simply sit down and let them run things. Yes, where they have run things is to where we are now. To them, I say, you are neither sophisticated nor a true grown-up. A real grown-up does not knowingly allow a child to go hungry.
Oh, this is terrible.
We should be making a emergency level just transition from a dirty economy to a clean economy, and an emergency level just transition from a war economy to a peace economy.
What?
None of those.
This is all just like, this is what should happen, and we need to go from like, what is this? There's
Fundamental changes are going to happen,
behind this.
however, until and unless we, the people, step in. No one person can fix it. This is a time of collective effort. All of us are necessary in whatever way our heart leads us to serve. This is not a time, however, to just ask, what can I get? It's time to ask, how can I serve? I'm not saying that one person can fix it. I'm not saying even one president can fix it. But let me tell you something, a president who lays it down and says it like it is would do a lot of good. And so I'm here today, again, with my deep thanks for your coming here. I have a request to make. I, as of today, am a candidate for the office of President of the United States.
Let's go.
And I am reminded and I am guided by the words of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who said that a necessitous man is not a free man. Not every chain is visible. It is time for us to release the shackles that are on the 64% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. It is time for us to do what other generations have done. And Franklin Roosevelt said that we would not have to worry about a fascist takeover, he said, as long as democracy delivered on its blessings. Given the economic situation of far too many Americans today, given the behavior of this corporate matrix, whether it has to do with insurance companies, big pharmaceutical companies, big oil companies, big agricultural companies, big food companies, big chemical companies, or the military industrial complex and the defense contractors that they serve, they have had their day. Corporate tyranny will end now. Only a few.
Okay, it's gonna end now, I guess.
We will not be able to say to the American people in 2024 that we're helping you enough already and we'll help you more because things are basically pretty good. That will not be strong enough to push back the neo-fascist authoritarian threat that is in our midst. We need to remember what Franklin Roosevelt said. We will not have to worry about that threat as long as democracy delivers on its blessings. We don't need to do anything other than stand for democracy, stand for the principles of the Declaration of Independence, stand for the best within us. Reject within ourselves the nihilism, reject within ourselves the cynicism, reject within ourselves the personal anger. We must remember what Martin Luther King said. We must conduct our struggle on the high plane of
these last couple of things she said. Let me go back here.
neo-fascist authoritarian threat that is in our midst. We need to remember what Franklin Roosevelt said. We will not have to worry about that threat as long as democracy delivers on its blessings. We don't need to do anything other than stand for democracy, stand for the principles of the Declaration of Independence, stand for the best within us. Reject within ourselves the nihilism, reject within ourselves the cynicism.
Reject the nihilism. Meaning reject, don't stop participating because every time you're participating, you're not getting any results. Reject that feeling is what that means.
Reject within ourselves the personal anger. We must remember what Martin...
Reject the personal anger that you have for people that aren't delivering, that you devoted your time, energy, support, and money to, and now who are sheep herding for the Democratic establishment. Reject that anger.
Luther King said, we must conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. And it is from that
that had nothing to do, and you're applying that reference, and it doesn't apply to what you're talking about. Like dignity doesn't have anything to do with participating in a system that doesn't deliver, but asks you to deliver votes. Don't equate participating in that system that doesn't deliver as somehow giving you dignity.
place that I request your donations, I request your volunteerism, I request your help, and I say to you now,
I request your donations. So we're about to send her some money to do what? What did she even say in this speech? But there was a lot of headlines with no article.
now, again, hear me, it's our turn. Let's do this. Thank you very, very, very much.
Oh, I'll let it play in the background without the sound. If somebody comes up and start talking again, I'll turn the sound back on. But I didn't hear anything, like nothing in the speech surprised me. It's more of the same of Marianne Williamson, where she's talking about headlines, no detail. When you talk about when you only use headlines in your speech, then you're able to use you can use very radical headlines. But how radical are you going to be when you're running inside the Democratic Party? How radical are you going to be when you refuse, even in an interview on a friendly network, Status Quo, to even critique Joe Biden? Like, this is not even a serious thing to me. Hold on, let me see if Nick texts me something here. Oh, yes. So this is absolutely not a serious thing. And I'll just recap a lot of the stuff we've already covered in a lot of streams, just to kind of close out this segment. But I'll recap. One, she doesn't even she doesn't have the support of elected progressives. So when Bernie Sanders did this, he literally had every single progressive on his side, including the so-called conservative progressives, if you can be that, the neocon progressives, and Pramila Jayapal, even Ro Khanna, remember, AOC, Nina Turner, even Kshama Sawant and Chris Hedges came out to a couple of his campaign events. Chris Hedges, I think, wrote a couple of speeches for him. Everybody. She's not having the same apparatus. Thank you, Goody Weaver, for your new membership. She doesn't have any of that apparatus whatsoever. I'll let it play some more. But somehow she's going to win. So the other thing, and what recently came out, she doesn't even have the support of all left white media. David Pakman, if he's considered left, he calls himself left. David Pakman came out with a video that he doesn't support Marianne Williamson and that she doesn't take her seriously. He has 1.6 people who watch him, who subscribe to him. 1.6 million people subscribe to David Pakman. She went on TYT, and Anna and Cenk were, I mean, it's an understatement to say that they were underwhelmed. Then you had Mike Figueredo, I think that's how you said, from Humanist Report, who was on Unbossed. He was like, yeah, she's all right. She's pretty good. Very weak. I guess I don't even want to say support. Is more of just saying she was okay. She's okay, and she'll be all right, kind of thing. So, of course, you're not to donate to nothing like this. Yeah, put that banner up actually. Of course, being disciplined, having a little revolutionary discipline is to understand that this is a fishing game that she's playing. And she's trying to catch as many non-establishment left people that might be considering to leave, to bring them back to the Democratic Party, because she will not win the primary. She will not even get on a debate stage. And that's another thing David Pakman said. He's like, she will never even get on a debate stage. It's never going to happen. You think, what about Joe Biden says he's going to debate Marianne Williamson? Joe Biden was almost not going to debate Donald Trump. Remember what people said? You shouldn't even give him the I forget what they said, the wording they said. You shouldn't even give him the legitimacy of debating him, or forget, all this stuff. Why? She is not a serious candidate. She is not I don't even think she's gonna reach the fundraising threshold. I don't think she's gonna reach the polling threshold to get on a debate stage. So then what is this for? What is this for? Is this just to raise her profile? Is this just to sell a book? That's what I think. There's literally zero way that Marianne, in her own mind, thinks that she's gonna win and be the president. There is zero chance of that. So then you have to break it down and narrow it down to its most purest. Why? What are we waiting for? Anyway, I was going to show you a couple of other clips of this. I mean, to prove my point about Marianne Williamson. I kind of started with one with Nick, but I don't think I necessarily need to do that. But I do want to go to comments, and there is a couple of tweets on this, and I found her comms director, her comms person, because there was somebody on the RBN account we posted several segments that we did on Marianne Williamson from when she went on when she came on RBN, when she went on Status Quo, and then I can't remember some other interview. I think TYT we did one. Oh yeah, I told you about that one. Why is this not refreshing? Did I put you up already? Goody Weaver? Yeah, okay, I put that one up because it's restarting over. That one. Should be some other comments after this. All right, I think the comments are erroring out for me. I don't know what's happening with you. Oh, wait, maybe that started back. All right. Okay, I got this. Okay, and that's 12:17. Okay, so that looks pretty current. All right, so back to what I was saying. So yeah, I'll go to some of your comments, and then now that the comments are working again, and then we'll go to this is what I was saying. I found her communications director. We had posted a couple of video segments of Marianne Williamson when we covered whatever she was doing in the segment. And this person, I saw a couple of comments from the video saying this and that, and so when I clicked on it, I clicked on that person's reply, and then I was looking at other people who replied. It was like, what do we expect you to say? You're the comms director, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, and I clicked on that person, and then that's listed. So I found that, and then another person, Jason Call, I think, is doing work for her. It's curious that later on I'll see it is revealed why people did what they did in the past. For example, I'm in a DM group that had Jason Call in it. And, when we post stuff on our account and my account, we want to do a stream, we're going to do this. I'll put it in this particular DM group and a couple of others, as for people in the DM group to retweet it. He's in this group, or was in this group, and he was seeing the stuff we're putting into the thing, and I guess he felt some type of way about it, and put this whole big spiel breaking down Marianne Williamson, and then exited the group. And I just thought that, wow, you are taking this real personal about us posting things about, our stream. When we're going on our stream and it's about Marianne Williamson, it's about progressive Democrats and blah, blah, blah. Now it makes sense. Now it makes a whole lot of sense. And you're right, David is not left. I saw that somewhere. David is not left. But anyway, let's go to your comments now. So Marianne is going to have Gilligan, the skipper, the professor, and the rest to support her. Very funny. I'm going to skip the Jimmy conversation. Let's go here. Kyle and Crystal are rubbing each other out to this speech right now. Actually, they're probably backstage. Yeah, they're probably there. David was left in 2008 when everyone thought Obama was left. That's funny. I sure hope that Jimmy Dore decides to run third party. Here goes Savvy. I didn't know she was in the chat. I didn't hear her mention any policies. That was a policy-free speech. Sab, policy-free. And a lot of what she does is happens to be policy-free. And a lot of her interviews are policy-free. A lot of her tweets are policy-free. Doesn't take a lot of stands. She stays away from a lot of policy kind of things. And it's very obvious that's what she's doing. We have 187 likes. Can we push to 250 likes? And let's continue with your comments, because there's actually quite a few. I'll try to get to maybe 10, and I think I've done 2 so far. So let me do another 8. Yeah, where was that energy? The energy in her speech when she was talking to RBN, when she was trying to grandstand and filibuster Nick's question by rambling about other stuff besides answering his question. Okay, so let's go here. Democrat or DNC standard strategy programmed opposition, which miraculously vanishes on election day, throwing support to the DNC pre-chosen candidate, and that's what she is here to do. There's no Bernie Sanders this time. Bernie Sanders did it the last 2 cycles. And there needs to be a person to do it with Joe Biden running. Bernie couldn't really be, the reason Bernie can't be the person with Joe Biden running is because Bernie may be Biden, and they can't have that. So the establishment has this person. The progressive establishment has this person. I guess so. Here we go. Reject Marianne's critics. I don't think she's calling RBN a nihilist. I because she was here and we told her what we do. But the term nihilist has devolved into something what PMCs do all the time. They just use words for whatever meaning they want. Has devolved, has sort of went away from the actual meaning. They're using nihilism, not political nihilism. They're using nihilism as to say giving up on politics and not voting Democratic Party when you've been doing that all this time. That's nihilism. Participating in any other way outside of voting Democratic Party is what now is considered nihilism by a lot of the people who speak about this topic. Let's keep going. Capitalism is literally killing life on the planet, so none of these politicians will save us if they're still talking about saving capitalism. And that is such a good point, Jojo, that you're making here, because that's exactly what she did. Let's see what's up with Nick. Hang on a second. Let me type this message or voice type this message to Nick. Okay, so I text him that I still don't have the link for the feed. So let's see. Let's get to the next. Reject the gospel of capitalism you preach. Oh yeah, she's not going to mention this, Daryl. Never mention a single thing about the war. Never mention you. She's not mentioning that because that dampens her thing. She kept mentioning FDR, and I feel like just the story of FDR, making FDR the person that people make him out to be, is to erase the socialists and communists who forced his hand to sign this legislation that he did. You wipe away that history, and that's what happened. They make out FDR as if he was the left candidate when he was just forced to do what he did. Marianne Williamson is the female version of Nick Brana. I guess I would ask in what way, to see what you mean. What bothers most is the absolute waste of time this represents. The left is already losing. Dumping energy into another guaranteed loss is idiotic, and this is so on point, Goody Weaver. This is so on point. Because why are we setting ourselves up for more disappointment? Do we really believe that this is going to do anything? So when they do media blackout on her, are we supposed to get up in arms and upset again? Like, why are we going through these motions of disappointment again? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Let's go to some more comments here. Frank Analysis told this would happen. The truth is that it will be extremely difficult for any candidate to run as an anti-capitalist in the country with a decade of brainwashed instilled in the populace. Absolutely, that could be the case, which is the reason why maybe going through electoralism shouldn't be it. It should be hitting the streets, revolution, millions of people saying, fuck you guys, you're fucking up shit, get the fuck out of here. That. So I'm talking about mass protests to bring these people to their knees. That's what we advocate. Y'all think Marianne Williamson voters will ever be on our side? No. No, I don't. I do not. Uh, I'd love to see Marianne's stock portfolio. That is a curious thing here. Let's go here. Hold on a second here. I did get a little instruction here. Let me see if it's streaming here. What they just told me here. So that's Nick with. Oh wow! Let me put a couple of pictures up, and then I'll come back to the. Or I can still do the comments even with this up, but I'm gonna change this because Nick is posting a couple of things that'll be cool to see, like this picture he just took with. I thought it was just there with Kshama Sawant. So let's talk about this. I'm gonna bring this banner down. What's up, babe? Everything okay? Okay. So I'm gonna bring this banner down. The whole family's at the house, so you guys may hear people in the background or hear ladies in the background because I live with 3 ladies, like Jack Tripper from Three's Company. Except we're related, so I guess it's not the same. But anyway, it's a tale. So let's go back to a tale of 2 strategies. I have to sound it out, otherwise I'll spell it wrong. So back to what I was saying earlier, a tale of 2 strategies, and I'm going to turn my phone off silent so I can hear it. So, tale of 2 strategies here. So you have Marianne Williamson, who's talking about taking one more shot, one more Charlie Brown shot at the football, and talking about all the things that need to be happening, using all the right non-establishment language so that non-establishment people's ears will perk up and go, wait, what did she say? But it's essentially the same strategy where we, progressive Democrats, who literally think they're really that much different than regular Democrats. And Nick has already said, I don't even use that term. It's just a Democrat. They're trying to act like they're all different. They're just Democrats. If you're a progressive Democrat, why is your voting record the same as the corporate Democrat? Explain that to me. So the strategy that has been proven to be absolutely failed, and we see it through Jamal Bowman, we see it through AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ro Khanna, the entire progressive caucus. We're supposed to take another shot at that. We're supposed to use our energy and our resources to take another shot at a ball, like we're Charlie Brown about to kick the ball. The ball is just gonna be snatched away again, and we know it's gonna be snatched away, and we know when it's gonna be snatched away, and we know who's gonna snatch it away. But we're supposed to go through this yet again. Or the other path, so that's one path in this fork in the road. The other path, illustrated by Kshama Sawant, the other path is Kshama Sawant, who was an elected leader. You know how Marianne Williamson has never been elected to shit? Kshama has been elected for 10 years coming up. I think she said she always referred to December, I think she said. Coming up in December's 10 years. Delivering. Just delivered another victory where they banned caste systems. This just happened like a couple of weeks ago, and maybe I'll show it. Victory after victory, $15 minimum wage, Amazon tax, delivered victories, not through the Democratic Party. She's saying, time to hang this electoralism up and get in these motherfucking streets with the worker strike back campaign, which actually launched today also. And it's launching over, in many different cities, or there's a launch events, I should say, in many different cities. All right. Launch events in many different cities, and I'll go through that with you in just a second here. But let me go back to the picture with Nick. And this is Nick, and it says nationalized railroads, monthly meetings they'll be having with worker strike back. No more sellouts. We need a new party. You see how that doesn't go with Marianne Williamson? There's no more sellouts. So down the path with where Kshama Sawant represent, there's no sellouts. There's a sign at the beginning of the path that says, sellouts will be hung. The other path says, everybody's welcome, including sellouts. Which one are we going to pick? Which one are we going to pick in this fork in the road? Me personally, I'm picking whatever path says sellouts are not welcome. Sellouts will be burned at the stake. I'm picking that path right there. Imagine a world without sellouts. Imagine a progressive Democrats without sellouts. Imagine a progressive Democrat strategy without sellouts. You can't, huh? Because they have nothing but sellouts. So as you can see in this picture, they flew Nick out. They flew RBN out. RBN wants to do work with worker strike back. And it's workers, I make sure to put the S in workers strike back. It's actually more of a affirmation or a sentence than a name. So workers strike back. We told her when was she here? Whenever we said we want to be involved with this new thing. This is the future. The Democratic Party is not the future. Anything but the Democratic Party is the future. Anything but the duopoly is the future. Let's put it that way, because I don't want people to think that means Republican Party. So this is what we want to do going forward, is working with Kshama, working with groups like Kshama. There's another group locally going to be talking with. But let's listen. Let's look at some of what people are saying here. I'd back Kshama plus Nick run. I don't know what that means, but you are a VP spitting fire on issues would motivate the people, and Kshama has the experience to make a honest try surrounded by a good cabinet. Something to consider perhaps. So this is. I wonder if Nick took that picture with his camera. He must have. It looked like he's kind of looking at the camera and looking. But I want to go to his page and oops, I went back too many times. Go to Nick's page. Oh, here it goes. And look at some of the other stuff he's posting here. So, oh, that was him in Denver. He had landed in Denver. I guess he had a stop. He had a layover in Denver on his way from Missouri. And then that's the picture. Kshama Sawant is too powerful. That's the picture you just saw. Let's see if he posted anything else for today. Sorry. Oh, worker strike back. And we're going to go to worker strike back right now. So if you haven't checked out worker strike back, this is worker strike back. And I'll read the caption. Quote, "We are an independent rank and file movement organizing in our workplaces and on the streets against the bosses and their political servants." So go and follow on Twitter or Instagram. I think they're on Instagram also, wherever you can find them. Go and follow Worker Strike Back. Oh man, they're only posting pictures. They're not posting the link to where I can join. So, okay, so this is what I was going to do. Sorry. What I was going to show you was some of the other locations. So let me scroll down. Here is this one is at Temple University, and Temple University Student Center is where they're having this location. And then you can see some of the other people that are speaking. Speaker announced. That's at Temple University and some other people. So you can go to their page or go to their Twitter profile and see that. Now, this is the one I was looking for. So you can see the launch cities. Nick is in Seattle. Seattle is the main launch. Yeah, Seattle is the main. I got to keep moving back to comments so that I don't miss a super chat. Let me see. Sabby says something here. Let me see where Sabby says she's going to be. I'll be at the Boston launch on March 11th. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be an LA launch. I just haven't heard it yet. Heard about it yet. But if there is a LA launch, I'll be there too. So for if you know, for those in Boston, Sabby will be at the Boston launch for Worker Strike Back. And we all the future. RBN is the future. All of you who are here is the future. We may not agree on everything, and even if even Marxists don't agree on everything. Even people who consider themselves communists don't agree on everything. So let's not think that. That is not Nick. Let's go back to here. So Seattle, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Bay Area, North Carolina, and Minneapolis. And then they have a link where you can RSVP. It just goes to the different. So the Seattle one is here. It's 12 to 2. And Kshama, Chris, Hedges, and Nick. Ain't that powerful? Look who Nick is running with now. I'll blow this up and it'll be on the side. So this is the one Nick is at. Oh, I thought it would show the side shit. I guess I have to click on it. And then they have one in Philadelphia. These are local times. So when it says 1 to 3, it's 1 to 3 local to Philadelphia. Then we have Pittsburgh launch. We have the Bay Area launch. Just giving you the different times for each one, because there aren't exactly the same time. It looks like this one overlaps with another one. So this is Worker Strike Back, and I'm going to go to that website in just a moment here. see if they have anything for me. So let's click on that, and it opens here, and I'm gonna put it in the feed here. Okay, so worker strike back. Oh, this is the RSVP. I wanted to do more of just talking about what it is. Let's go to demands. So here are the demands for workers strike back. When we fight, we can win. So let's go to 1 and 2. And let's see what they're saying here. So we need a real wage. I'm sorry, we workers need a real raise. Biden and corporate politicians in Congress keep giving themselves raises, but can't pass a bare 15 federal minimum wage for working people. We strongly support the fight for a $25 an hour starting wage by workers trying to unionize. Let me make sure I read that right. We strongly support the fight for a $25 an hour starting wage by workers trying to unionize their workplace. In major cities, that's just a basic living wage. So let's stop here. $25 minimum wage. The $15 ask, that was literally, when was that asked? That was literally over 10 years ago, I think. Was it? Can't remember. Or maybe 7 years ago. If it was it 15? Maybe it was 7 years ago. But at any rate, $15 of minimum wage, that's just not enough. That's literally just not enough. And 25 minimum wage, right now, that is literally the floor. That's literally the floor for workers. Let's continue. We strongly support, or I said that part already. As prices skyrocket on everything from food to housing, we need at least a 20% raise for all workers with automatic cost of living increases above inflation going forward. Let me read that again. As prices skyrocket on everything from food to housing, we need at least a 20% raise for all workers with automatic cost of living increases above inflation going forward. Instead of long hours and multiple jobs just to pay the bills, we need to shorten the work week with no loss in pay and benefits. We work to live, not live to work. That's a pretty good start. Like I said, yeah, you are right. $25 in California, that is like you can't get it, you maybe get an apartment, studio, maybe. But I do agree that it's a good negotiating point. Not even negotiate, because it's not a negotiation. This is a good starting point. 25. But for me, in California, a $35 minimum wage without cost going up, meaning with cost being at it right here where it's at, a $35 minimum wage would be a start. So let's go to number 2. Good union jobs for all. And let's read this. With billionaires and corporations making obscene profits, there is no reason we cannot have good union jobs for all. Unions are the key tool workers have to fight the bosses for the things we desperately need. Organize the unorganized. Unionize Amazon and every workplace. We need to rebuild a fighting labor movement that arms itself with clear, bold demands and is prepared to go on strike to win them. I don't know. Does this sound better than what Marianne Williamson was saying? It sounds leaps and bounds better to me. But maybe that's just me. Let's continue. And actually, we're at 255 likes. Let's push to 300 likes, and let's continue. Actually, let me make this a slightly bigger. I forgot we may have those who are watching this from their phone. So let's make it a little bit larger. We need a massive green jobs program that can employ millions of workers in clean energy and prevent climate catastrophe. To succeed, we must take the big energy corporations into democratically public ownership because we can't control what we don't own. This is what I'm talking about. Not fucking around with the blue and red teams in the corrupt system that they design and control. 90% this, 10% that by way of a third party. See if this isn't it here. It is not. Let's continue. So that, and now let's go to 3. Fight racism, sexism, and all oppression. Pretty based. Make sure I didn't miss anything here. 1 second. I got to keep checking messages and everything to make sure I have what's supposed to, everybody. So give me 1 moment here. And Dana, as always, hooking the shit up. So if people didn't know what Dana does, she listens to the streams and she'll go and pull like receipts and attaches them to the tweet. So we tweet out about this episode and then we talk about worker strike, which I did. She'll go and post stuff about worker strike in that thread. So people who watch the stream get that information. So it's awesome. So thanks, Dana. She's doing that now. But fight racism, sexism, and all oppression. And let's read, only the bosses profit from division among the working class. We need to build a united, multiracial, multi-gendered movement of working class, of working people. Fight back against the brutal anti-trans legislation in many states and all right-wing attacks on LGBTQ people. We need to organize to win legal, safe, free abortions for all who need them. End racist policing, put police under the control of democratically elected community boards with full power over department policy. Hiring and firing. Oh, Lord. This is what we need. And I'm an abolitionist. But that's a step in that direction, which what they're saying here, and this is a big step. Movements are how change happens. We need to get organized to fight for our rights. An injury to one is an injury to all. You're not going to hear any progressive Democrat talking like this. Certainly not campaigning, talking like this. Let's continue. Lost my spot, but let's close some of these windows. That probably will help. All right, so now that's better. All right, so quality, affordable housing and free healthcare for all. I think I would say that's a pretty good one. Would you? We face an epidemic of unaffordable housing. The rent is too damn high. We need strong rent control with no rent increases above inflation. Fund a you see how this is detail? Like literally, it's not hard to put detail in a short speech or a short or a short paragraph. It's really not. But somehow Marianne Williamson went on a speech. I think it was 30 or 40 minutes and didn't give any detail whatsoever. But these short little snippets is laced with detail. Fund a massive, I'm sorry, it says we need strong rent control with no rent increases above inflations. Rent control, no rent increases above inflation. Detail, fund a massive expansion of publicly owned, high quality, affordable housing by taxing the rich. The private housing market has failed us. Take the big real estate companies, corporations, and banks into democratic public ownership. This is the revolution we need. Now, you tell me the tale of two strategies, even if you're not down, even if you are scared to do Kshama's strategy, which strategy you think is going to get the most? Which strategy? So you may say, oh, well, Kshama's strategy is more high risk. Which strategy is going to get the most? Which strategy has the ability of extracting the most for the people? Is it trying to maneuver through a party that hates your guts and your policies as a progressive Democrat? And having failure after failures and keep having to pick yourself back up? Or teaming up with some people who said, fuck all that dumb shit and trying to get wins through a corrupt system ran by corrupt people? Let's go ahead and team up together and get these wins more directly by putting pressure on them directly through strikes, through organizing, through labor. And let's be clear, this is not the same thing that, actually, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to stop myself. I'm not going to say that. So let's go through here. Let's finish this up. We're dying from unaffordable healthcare as the big pharma bosses and for-profit healthcare insurance industries make bank off our sickness. We need free, state-of-the-art Medicare for all, owned and democratically run by working people. You hear she didn't say nothing about let's get Medicare for all and leave private insurances in place and leave profiteers in place. No. Okay. So let me finish reading. But this is why RBN says this is what we're trying to do here. Hold on, Nick. This is Nick. I'm going to send Nick the link to the stream, and he's going to be joining in a second. I think he's going to be joining in a second here. So let me send that, and I'll get right back to the breakdown and strategy here. So I'll send it to him. I don't know if he can. That's just what I said to him. Let's see if he can. Oh, he said he's on a panel. Okay, so yeah, he's on a panel, so we gotta wait on that. Okay, so he says after he's done, he will. All right, so he will be coming, but just not right this second. Anyway, let's continue. So we will have Nick soon. We need free, state of the art Medicare for all. This part here, owned and democratically run or ran by working people. And this is such an important such an important section to me, because this section about no more sellouts, not necessarily the no we need a new party. I'm focusing on the no more sellouts, because this is the part where you're going to gather non-establishment people. No more sellouts. No more AOCs. No more Ilhan Omar's, Jamal Bowman's. No more, what's the new guy? No more Mac Frost's. No more Summer. Is it Summer Long? Is that her last name? Summer Long. None of these. No more of these people. Let's read what the section for no more sellout says. The Democrats and Republicans both answer to billionaires. That's why working people keep getting screwed. But Marianne Williamson wants us to believe she can run as a Trojan horse in the Democratic Party somehow and be the only good one that's going to deliver all this stuff for us. It's just unreasonable and not believable. Oops, I still haven't even sent it to him. Still haven't sent the link. Here it goes. All right, so I sent it to him. So let's continue reading. We need a new. Actually, I missed a sentence. Even so-called progressives in Congress have completely failed to fight against the establishment and offer no solutions. We need a new multiracial working class party that organizes movements and fights unambiguously for our needs. In such a party, all elected leaders would accept only the average worker's wage. Like Seattle council member Kshama Sawant. And let me say that again. In such a party, all elected leaders would accept only the average worker's wage, like Seattle council member Kshama Sawant. We would need elected leaders to be fully accountable to our membership and our demands, or else be removed. We need a party that is consistently. We need a party that is consistently opposing war and imperialism. Under capitalism, the bosses call the shots and have a dictatorship over our workplaces. We need a fundamental different kind of society run by and for working class and working people, not billionaires. Now, this is their clever way of saying socialism and communism without actually saying that. So those are the 5 points. They call them demands, but to me they're more of points. But that's what they call their 5 demands, and that is worker strike back. And now I want to or their demands. Now I want to go to not this one. Look at this here. Read more. Watch now. This is pretty cool. Direct links. You see that direct link there? Bad Faith is here too, which is cool too. So you see the teaming up that we are absolutely wanting to do. Here's their email. If you have any questions, I'm going to put their email up here. If you want to know about the local area, if they're going to be having a chapter, or if you want to open a chapter, I have no idea if you can do it. I'll put it in the chat. So that's it in the chat, and then I'll also make a banner for it. So that's their email. Reach out to them. Like we said, this worker strike back, this organization, this is something we're looking to. RBN is looking to be a part of very closely. They're going to be launching their own sort of podcast also, or I don't know if it's a podcast. Yeah, it hasn't launched yet. And then this is something else. How to organize in your workplace. So this is an awesome website. And by the way, the website is workersstrikeback.com. Workers with an S, strikeback.com. Make sure you check them out. Now, what we're probably going to do, let me reread this here. Nick said he killed it. I just killed this speech. So he's going to bring on the video. So I guess it wasn't broadcast, but it was recorded, and that's how they're going to put it up. It wasn't going to be live. We've missed Jane lately. Oh, shoot. Worker Strike Back plus RBN. And that's the ticket. I put the link in the Twitter DM. All right, I sent him the link to join, and just hang on, everybody. We're rounding home here. We are rounding home. All right, so I didn't get to finish the Marianne Williamson part, but I got to most of it. Oh, this is what I was going to show you. Okay, so now we're here. Let's go back to Twitter. Let's see here. So what I want to show you now is some of the response to Marianne Williamson, and also identify her I think it's, I don't know if it's call herself her comms director. It's comms something. So I'll look that up in just a moment here. Marianne Williamson is running for president. Well, isn't that something terrible? Wow. Yeah, it was funny. All right, let me go into here and look at one of these retweets here on the main page. That's us. If you didn't see it, oh, did I not retweet this? My bad, everybody. On my account, for some reason, I thought I did. Really? Now, so here is where I want to show you. Down here a little bit. Oh, there goes Nick again. All right, now we get into the stuff. So this person here is the comms director. Let me get the official. Oh yeah, digital director. It says, listen to my album. It says vice chair of Stonewall Democrat Club of Southern Nevada, digital director for Marianne Williamson 2020. But that's not this year. But this is their comms person, I guess. But as you can see, they're the ones that's promoting this. It's really sad to see David Call still is doing this, I guess. Pretty terrible. Okay, he put it up. All right. So let's go to Nick's page. Get us started here before he joins. Looks like he recorded it and he just posted it. So let's go view. I think this is what he's saying. He just posted it. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So oh wow, it's only 45 seconds, but let's see. So they didn't post the whole thing. But here is Nick at the worker strike back panel, because that's why he can't join right this second, because he's on the panel. Oh, it's just showing him going, just finishing up, I guess.
Did you vote for endless military spending that makes regular profits for great guns going? Did you guys vote for that? No. Did you guys vote for the record amount that is going to ICE, DHS, that is going under in the Biden administration, not Donald Trump? He's spending more money on ICE. Did y'all vote for that? No. So now that we acknowledge that we live in a capitalist dictatorship, how do we approach that? What is the answer? Time for workers to strike back.
That's Nick. Nick flew out to Seattle and shut that shit down. So this is awesome. You don't know behind the scenes. RBN, we were just talking this morning. RBN is very, very excited about our future in this movement, and excited about the movement. More and more people are waking up. More and more people are saying, more and more people are saying they're done with the Democratic establishment, Republican establishment. So now is the time. So let's read a couple of comments from Nick. I know it's short. Nick needs a baseball bat. I guess that will give him sort of a what is that movie? Lean on Me. Morgan Freeman plays, and the teacher that walks around with a baseball bat. I guess he could do that. Next comment on his speech. I think he just sent me another one. We're hoping that the establishment fails, but RBN will grow as the establishment fails. Just keep doing what you do. And that is the recipe. Nick's power comes from his word. I'm going to play that clip one more time. Next time, Nick needs to come out to Steve Austin theme. Megan Cruz, I don't know who that is. All right, so let's listen to again, and then I'll see if he posted the second part, because somebody in the audience is recording this.
Did you vote for endless military spending that makes regular profits for great guns going? Did you guys vote for that? No. Did you guys vote for the record amount that is going to ICE, DHS,
Just awesome. It's a little surreal to me. I'm sure it's surreal to Nick too. He did say. Let me see. Let me get the right phrasing. He says RBN is well received over there. So that's awesome. All right, so let's see if Nick has posted anything else. He says RBN is well received. Oh, I don't know why. Oh yeah, he did post another part here. So I'll get to that. Or is it this? He just retweet the same thing. Is it the second part? Hang on, everybody. I'm still trying to figure this out. It's probably the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. Part of my speech at the full speech will be uploaded on RBN today. Okay. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to have another stream later on. So Nick is on the West Coast. Nick is on the West Coast. So he's on West Coast time right now. We can do another stream later today. All right. So yeah, because it's a lot going on. Because there's still, even though the conference, because the conference is technically still going on for another 45 minutes. He's saying, yeah. All right, so this was posted by Worker Strike Back, and the whole thing will show you tonight. Let's see if it has any other videos here. Worker Strike Back. Yeah, awesome. This is pretty cool. All right, so I think we're gonna go. Let me just make sure he confirms that he's not coming right now. Let me make sure Nick confirms that he's not coming right now. So y'all gotta give RBN some love, man. We're really just some five random people that have come together from across the country. Who literally we all weren't as radical as we are today, but after reading and learning more, become the people we are today in our ideology and want to help the community and want to actually get tangible results for the working class. Y'all got to show us some love. So give us some likes. Nick flew out there. We told him, it was like, hey, we'll raise some money for you to have money, food and stuff while you're out there, even though they pay for your plane ticket. And he was like the modest Nick, as always. Nick is a very minimalist person. He's like, nah, I think I'm like good. But knowing Nick, he might just have some fruit bar, from some fruit bars or something like that. A couple of them, and he'd be like, oh, I'm good. Some Cliff bars or something. So just awesome what RBN has been able to accomplish in a year. And the thing is, we're only a year in April. So our year mark is about a month away. So we're just 1 month shy of being a year old. And in a year, we've come this way. And if we just had the funding, just think if we had the funding that Breaking Points had, that a Kyle Kalinske has. Look what Rome is doing. Rome is renovating a library off of donations from other workers, doing what he can do. Imagine if we had the funding that these bigger channels have. Think of what that condition of that library would be in right now. Think of the amount of times Rome is able to go on tour for the poor in different cities that he's never been in. Think about the diaper runs we can do in all of these cities. Think of the chapters that we can launch. Have people on the ground going to in LA, going to housing projects like the Carmelitos and the Nickerson housing projects, delivering food and clothing, tutoring, things like this. That's what this channel wants to do. That's what these so-called podcasters on this network want to do. So support us if you can. Support us monetarily. Support us with your solidarity. Support us by liking the stream. Support us by sharing the stream, becoming a member. If you're able to support us on Patreon, you see the little bar scrolling at the bottom. Support channels like this who aren't just here trying to just talk. We're trying to talk and do. Don't get us wrong. We want to stay in this arena of talking about politics because we have to combat the nonsense that's coming from the NATO left. But we want to do this other work that like Kshama is doing in the street, and like we've already been doing in communities. So here is where you can donate if you have the ability to. We have our labor and what is it called? RBN Labor and Bills Fund, which is Venmo is Revolutionary Blackout. The Cash App is Mutual Aid Forever. We do have our GoFundMe. I don't have it yet. I think we'll give that out tonight because Nick is our chief financial person. So we'll do that tonight when we recap, and I think that's what we're doing since he hasn't replied yet. We'll probably be doing that tonight when we recap. So we'll have the GoFundMe at that later tonight. We'll be able to give that out. But in the meanwhile, Venmo and Cash App we have, and we're raising money. We have employees like our editor who do great graphics like this. Here's another great graphic done by Aaron. I mean, there's just tons. I think all of them. Here's another one, the Savvy Sab one she did. And this one, the fundraising one. So if you're able to contribute, please do. Venmo, Revolutionary Blackout, and Mutual Aid Forever. Rome is doing more things in the community right now. He's raising money for the library, which is a different place. So don't send library funds here. So if you want to donate to the library, this is not the place to donate to the library. Let me go to Rome's page and you can just see, because it's astonishing the work he's already gotten done. Like he's already gotten a lot of the work that he did by hand himself. He's gotten a lot of the work for the library done. So I do want to play the last update he made. He made an update about he did an update video on like, you know, where they're at so far. This is before. Is there an after? All right, so let me play this one first.
I got to do the kitchen. As you can see, it's not in the best of shape.
Well, this is some of the work.
Surprisingly, you still got that, but
or he's renovating this whole place himself.
My floor is gone. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be fundraising for wood for the flooring, 2x8s and 4x8s, 2x4s. We're going to need some drywall, cabinets. I'm pretty sure we can find a stove, and we're going to need a countertop, sink. I'll worry about the bathroom later, but all of this have to go. All of this have to go. The floor has to be ripped up from back there to at least right here. And then we're going to replace all this. We're going to get all this sticky towel up, replace it with some nice floating floor. where all this has to go. So as far as the library, this is the space that I'm gonna have. With the stage, so I'm gonna have my bookshelves on the stage sideways this way.
All right, that's a good amount there. Now let's see some of the stuff he's improved. You'll see the drywall, the walls have been updated with this other one, this other video here. You can see.
All right, got another update for you guys.
You see the wall, the
drop ceiling dropped on me. Cut my damn hand, but we're almost done with this room. Gotta head back to the kitchen, get that ceiling down. So far, so good. All right, got another update for you guys. Yeah.
wow, that's some work. He's showing some of the injury he's got from doing the work. Oops, let me get out of this thread and see if there's another one. So as you can see, again, this is very surreal for us, or for me at least. Let's see. But anyway, this is the work that we're doing. If you're able to contribute, please do. If you're not able to contribute financially, at least share this stream, like this stream, like like all of our content, subscribe, tell your people, your friends and family about us. I think I got the confirmation. Okay. All right. So yes, we will be going on later tonight. It's still going on, and they still have him involved. So it's hard for him to get away. So I can mute this now. That I know that. Okay. All right. So now that I got the answer. All right. So yeah, we will be creating another stream. And can you see this part? Okay, so now you can see what I was mentioning earlier. What Dana does, she goes in. She'll go in the thread and post all the information we're talking about, and you can see she went on. Next picture, she posted our video to this stream that we're on now. Then the worker strike stuff. So Dana hooks it up for us. So thanks, Dana, for doing that work. I'll go ahead and retweet that. So I guess we can kind of end on this picture here. And thank you, Blackfield, for becoming a new member. Let me see. Rome has people here and there. There's another video where he's asking people, laborers, to come out and help. It's never more than like 2 or 3 people that's out there with him doing the work. Sometimes, other days, I would say half the time it's just him. Then there's other half the time, he has friends that can come in, do some work, and they're not working in with their family, can come and help them a little bit out there. So if you do know people who are interested in volunteering and doing work, maybe you can't send money, but you know how to lay flooring, but you know how to do that, or you simply, or a body that can do something and you can be shown how to do some work. So, was there another one I missed here? Hang on a second, yeah. Make sure I didn't miss another thing. All right, I think that's gonna be it. This is the feature for RBN. Doing this work with worker strike back, doing more work as we grow, as we're more financially able to secure, financially able to do things. You'll see us doing more and more, like the citizen journalism I did. I went out and covered the Buena Park Medieval Times location, the strike they're having in Medieval Times. Covered that. It was a little spotty. The sound wasn't the best and all that stuff. That's because we don't have the equipment. But as we grow, as we're able as we get more and more financial support from some of you and future audience members, we'll be able to do more and more work like this that's tangibly helping people. Oh, yes. I read it to myself. I should have said it out loud. It says, nationalize the railroads under worker democratic control. And then she talks about, and then it says monthly meetings that the worker strikes are going to be having. I can't read that here. Monthly meeting. Okay, now I can see it. Monthly meeting of worker strike back Monday, April 3rd at 6 p.m. So monthly meetings we'll be having. This is just all around awesome. I'm loving this. So that's yeah. Rome is in Detroit. That library is in Detroit. I mean, it's not a library. It was something else that he's going to make into a library. I'm sorry. Let's go. Really? You say it like void. That is very interesting. Thank you for the super chat to clarify that. So it's Black Void. Black Void. That is very interesting. Oh, here goes Rome right here. Rome, I was just shouting out all your work and the updates and showed the before and after video. I didn't know Rome was in the audience. Let's go back to that thing I was just showing here. Because there is one more part that I missed. I'm gonna go back to Rome. And so for those waiting about worker strike, we will be doing another stream later today. Once Nick is done and I guess get some rest and everything, we'll come back and do this. Oh, maybe I should go. Yeah. So let's go. Let me get you the. Okay, here we go. Here is where you can donate. I'm gonna blow. Oh, you can see it there. Cash App Tour for the Poor. Here's the PayPal. Unholy Rome 6, and then Venmo Tour for the Poor. So can everybody see that? So I showed you the videos. If you're able to contribute, donate. If you're not able to contribute, just retweet, like, share. You think we're just saying that as a formality. We're serious. Like, retweeting helps, sharing helps, especially on platforms that we're not on, like Facebook. We're not on as much. We're on there, but we're not as much. Like Facebook, like Instagram. Like, make posts on these platforms with our fundraisers, with our content, all of that, and that helps. If you're not able to contribute, that does a lot. We have the car in the shop. Every other donation will be going towards the library. Oh, did somebody ask about a shop? What are you talking about? Oh, here goes his email, his direct email. I showed everybody earlier RBN's email or group email, but if you needed to email Rome, like if you're a laborer out in Detroit or you can help physically come out and help do some of this work, email Rome directly. I'm going to shout out a couple of things you're looking for, Rome. So there's that. And then Rome also needs now that he's ready to do his show, because we asked for a producer before, but he wasn't really ready to do his show. Email Rome if you are interested in volunteering to be his producer. When he doesn't do shows regularly, but whenever he does a show, email him also for that. And then in this shot, Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, I didn't see that. Talking about this car that's in the snow. All right, so I think now we are going to end it. I'm gonna go hang out with the family a little bit until we come back later this evening. Um, it's either gonna be late afternoon or evening, early evening. You know, maybe like 7 Eastern, or maybe as late as 9 Eastern. We'll be coming back to so we can watch the full speech. He says he's gonna have the full speech by then. I think that's what he said. Did he say that? Okay. Okay, so they're still going. They're still having it. So he can't make the show right now. So we're gonna have this later. Just stay tuned. Now, in order for you to know when we're gonna go live, make sure you're on our Substack. That's how you get notifications when we go live. On your way out, like the stream. Appreciate you staying with us this long to cover Tale of Two Strategies, because that's really what we're talking about. We can either keep hitting our head against the wall with the Democratic Party, or we can say that's all. Let's take control into our own hands. Let's take our destiny into our own hands and make this happen. So let's get to my outro video, and then I'm gonna be out of here, everybody. I don't think. What is this? I don't think I have any other super chats that I missed, but I'll look through them as I go down the list. Oh, I still have the stuff from my last Jimmy Dore running for president thing. Y'all remember this one? Let's play this one. All right, we'll end with this. This is a cop on the stand.
You harbor any racial?
It answer the question: do you harbor any hatred towards Black people? Essentially, are you a racist? And it takes him 2 minutes to answer the question that yes, he is. This is a deposition of LA County Sheriff officers who are being fired. It's like 47 of them being fired for being involved in police gangs of brutality. And these police gangs have committed some of the most worst brutality that you can imagine. So that's what this deposition is from. And this officer takes 2 minutes to admit he's a racist.
You harbor any racial animus toward African Americans?
Can you rephrase that question, sir?
You know what animus means? Do you have any ill feelings toward African Americans in general?
Ill feelings? I'm not.
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat that question one more time, sir?
Do you have any ill feelings in general against African Americans? Animus toward African Americans?
Can you rephrase that question, sir?
You know what animus means? Do you have any ill feelings toward African Americans in general?
Ill feelings? I'm not.
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat that question one more time, sir?
Do you have any ill feelings in general against African Americans?
Hmm. I have feelings for African Americans, sir.
What are your feelings?
They're just human beings, sir.
Did you hear my question, sir? Do you have any ill feelings toward African Americans?
Um, I do, sir.